Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and I'm also a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to go over how avoidants attach faster when you do some of these things. And I also wanted to address that I know a lot of you guys want to have a call with me, and sometimes it's not as affordable or it's not in your means. And so I have opened up a group session where you guys can show up. You don't have to turn on your camera if you don't want to, and I can answer your questions live. And because it's a live call, you can ask whatever questions can fit in that session. I know that you guys will consider other people as well, but you are able to ask a lot of questions and share some of your dynamics. And if a lot of people can relate as well, you will hear those things as well. And I think that's very important that you can connect among other individuals. And like I had mentioned, the goal of this is for you guys to find solutions for your relationship at a much more affordable rate. And so that is pinned in the comments. However, let's go ahead and talk about what can help avoidants to actually attach to you faster, because they do attach, but a lot of times it's very slow. And so this can actually help to make it a little quicker so that you can attach a little faster. So the first one is that you actually engage in conversations about things that you are confident in. Okay, so this is very interesting because a lot of people, when they start dating an avoidant, they get so stuck in the anxiety and the fears and how triggering that relationship can really be that often you kind of lose yourself. And the unfortunate part is the avoidant was attracted to you before you were attached to them, right? Like you didn't know each other. And they were attracted to the side of you that showed that passion, that confidence, and things of that nature. I'm going to use an example that I kind of think of because I like cooking, which a lot of you guys know that. And so let's say you also enjoy cooking. You want to talk about this with your significant other. You want to show passion and confidence. You want to be yourself, maybe even invest in doing those things. Do it in front of them, do it with them, because that's what an avoidant was very drawn to, that part of you that you may have accidentally let go of because you've been so anxious. And the difficult part about being with being with an avoidant is you might see sides of yourself that you weren't even aware of. The anxious part of you, the uncomfortable part of you. You might be feeling a little more insecure because the way they act is so confusing and it can trigger you so much that sometimes you accidentally self-abandon yourself. And so this is very healthy to introduce regardless of if it's going to help them attach or not. But the bright side and the silver lining of this is, yeah, it's going to help them to get much more attached to you, fall in love with you. Well, they already are in love typically, but they're more aware of their love for you. And for you, you get that love that you're looking for, and the anxiety that you feel because of the way they behave will decrease because they are showing up more. And so I really like this one because it really helps. And we can talk about this more in our group session as well, about ways to show up and do this in a lot of different ways, a lot of different dynamics, because some people have long distance relationships. Some people have a relationship where it's like off and on. And so there are ways that we can touch on this and talk about this in our call, because it's really important that we explore so many different sides. Because long distance, what works for a person long distance is not going to work for somebody who you're living together. It won't work for someone who's married. It won't work for someone who's off and on. They're like different dynamics, but this is a short way of kind of looking at it. And then when we have our group call, we will talk more about it in general. That call is in August. It's a Sunday in August. I think it's the second Sunday of August, 11 a.m. Eastern. For me, for you, it might be a different time. I know some of you guys have my time zone. I think a lot of you guys actually have my time zone, but still, whatever time zone that is for you, hopefully you can fit it in. I believe it is. Double check. The form will tell you what the actual time is for that group call, but it will really help because you guys can ask questions and it's anonymous, the questions that you ask on the intake. And so I'll just share it live and that'll be really helpful. And you can also ask questions in the call. Of course, I don't care about that. That's the point of it, right? It'll be expressive. We can figure things out together. The next one is you want to communicate more directly, particularly about things you want, but just in general. I actually want to give an example of something you want versus just something that's occurring in life. Okay, so this is very interesting. I had some calls with you guys recently. I'm going to obviously not give the exact example, but this is so interesting. I wanted to share with you something specific, but not sharing anyone's information. So let's say, for example, you are going to the store with an avoidant, the mall. I don't know, you're buying clothes, something like that, okay? And you're checking your thing out at the counter, whatever it is, and they're standing next to you, and you're communicating very directly. Let's say, for example, that person is like, hey, you want to sign up for a credit card, the cashier. They were saying, sign up for a credit card for the store. Do you want us to send you it by email? You can also get like coupons, etc., discounts. And you keep saying, no, I don't like that. I want to make sure that nothing is being sent to my email. You're communicating very directly to this cashier, okay? And so what's very interesting about this dynamic is the avoidant individual is observing you communicating very directly, which boosts attraction and makes them also feel subconsciously like you communicate directly. The other way to do this is communicating directly what you want in front of them, to them, okay? So you might say, I would like if we could hang out at this time, whatever that time is. What are your thoughts? You're still open. You're not saying you have to hang out at this time, but you are communicating directly. I would like if you could do this. How do you feel about that? Even an example that I worked with one of you guys, just an example, but this is something we touched on, and we can also touch on it in our call. A lot of times avoidants are very engaged in their hobbies, okay? And so sometimes a good example could be, especially if you guys have a lot of rapport, you could say, I would like if you could balance your time between you and your hobbies and me. I think we both should be able to balance that time. What do you think? You're not calling out and saying, by the way, I think you take much more care of your hobbies than you do me, even though you might feel that way. You didn't say that. You said, I would like us to balance between hobbies and us time a little bit more. What do you think? I would like if we could hang out a little bit more often on Saturdays. I know that you're always spending that time playing pool, and I respect that, but this is something I want. What do you think, right? You're communicating directly, you're open, and you're also engaged in that. And then we can also talk about that in our call as well, how to manage that, because a lot of times people feel very neglected when their partner is always engaging in hobbies. Avoidants do that to manage themselves, and so they often are spending time with hobbies much more than they spend time with you or with anybody. But we can talk about how to adjust that as well. The next one is stop making excuses and letting them get away with the neglect, the relationship neglect, to where you bottle that up and then you crash out at them. So obviously stop is a very easy thing for me to say. It's hard to do in practice. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. When they do something, you can still give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Anybody would appreciate that if they love you, if you love them. But that doesn't mean you don't say the reality. So I'm going to give an example. Let's say they had trauma. Let's say your partner, let's say it's a male avoidant and he got cheated on. Okay. So this is pretty common, especially if he's fearful avoidant. Now he's incredibly scared to be in relationships or ever get married, even though maybe at one point he was. Okay. With a dismissive avoidant, it's a little less common. With fearful avoidance, this is not too uncommon. Okay. And so he's afraid. And in your mind, you're like, okay, he's not physically intimate with me because he got cheated on before. You know that. You're not making an excuse. And you can say that doesn't mean that we can never be physically intimate. Or you can say, I understand, I have to step back, I have to be patient, but I still deserve this at some point. So I want to have a conversation. You're telling yourself that, okay? And you're not making excuses. You're not saying, oh, poor thing, this is the reason why we don't have to do this, even though inwardly you still want that. You're telling yourself the reality while still compromising to some extent. You can even say, this is getting a little tiresome to yourself and maybe even to him. I understand that he or you, whoever you're talking to, has been through a lot, but I still feel like we need to move progress a little bit. I still want to see progress. I still want to understand what's happening in this relationship. I still want us to make some progress. What do you think? What can I do? Right? You're meeting in the middle. You're not making excuses, because the excuses, they hurt him. This example is a him. It doesn't have to be a him. It can be her. It can hurt the avoidant, and it also hurts you. It doesn't help the relationship. Okay. The next one is you don't want their triggers to waver your perspective. Avoidants have triggers to such an extent where they push you away. I don't ever want to get married. I don't want relationships. I don't even like you that much. And then the next day when they're calm, they're fine, and they're acting all in love with you, and your mind is thinking, what just happened? Well, they were triggered. By the way, that's not okay. Like I do want to let you know that's not okay the way they just treated you in this example, but I still want to talk about the reality of it. They were triggered. Don't believe their trigger. Believe what you see. Trust yourself. Don't trust themselves. You guys are so afraid to trust yourself because you're afraid to be blindsided. If you get blindsided, first of all, you can handle it. I know that you can. But most of the time, that's not the issue. The issue is that you're just confusing yourself even more if you don't tell yourself the truth. This is probably a relationship. Whether they want to admit it or not, that's their issue. But you don't want to also develop an issue too, right? You have your own issues. You don't need to pick up their issues as well, okay? You are an individual. You can see that there is a relationship. You guys are more than friends. You don't have to tell them right away, but don't let them waver your perspective. The next one is you want to have your own opinions. I'm not even talking about relationships. I'm talking about in general. And this is probably something that at one point, if we have time in our call, like our group call, we'll have to talk about this, because a lot of you guys, you struggle with this. Being honest, I am being honest. I'm not picking on you. You lose your actual opinions of everything. Food. Not all of you guys are like this. Please understand. Food, I don't know, any perspective, food, political, which we're not going to talk about on the call, but anything. Finance, you lose your opinions and you start letting their opinions take over. Don't do that. You have your own opinions, okay? And the last one, which we will definitely make some time in the call to talk about, versions of this depending on your relationship. Do things that you like together that require less talking. I know a lot of people are going to think, okay, that's not fair, or that we never talk. I'm not saying exactly, but I'm saying playing chess, playing basketball, even playing games together on your phone. This builds connection. And we're going to give a lot of examples depending on what your case is during the call. But if you want to join the call, that's pinned in the comments. But in general, if you want to book a separate call with me, that's also in the comments. But I hope this video is helpful regardless of if I see you or not during that call. I still want to make videos for you guys, right? Like, that's the point of this. The whole point of this is so I can help you guys. And so whichever direction, whichever version of how I can help you, I will do that. And so I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.